Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Unqualified Film Bros podcast. Tonight, we're talking about the, I guess, long-awaited sequel. I don't know that anyone asked for it. Um, Gladiator II, which I'll just preface with my initial opinion, which is okay sequel, nowhere near as good as the original, but entertaining enough. But what did you guys think?
George, you want to go?
Yeah. Um, the first film is all-time great. It's a Best Picture winner. It's firmly on the Mount Rushmore of Ridley Scott's films. This one is not there. But
No.
that being said, it is very entertaining. Great, great popcorn movie, big blockbuster at the theater. A lot of good action, a lot of good performances that I'm sure we'll get into. Um, I had a whole heck of a lot of fun watching it. It was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Max?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty solid. I mean, definitely, I was glad I saw it in IMAX, so like that
Yeah.
was awesome. Um, but I just did a rewatch or I watched Gladiator for the first time over like before the week before I went
Same.
to go see this. And great film. This felt like the same movie for way too much of the runtime. Um, and like, I don't know, just not as interesting. Um, I think probably because Ridley Scott knows that people who are going to see this movie have seen Gladiator, so they kind of get it. And the journey to the Colosseum, I guess, will be very similar for all gladiators. But like, Maximus was a more interesting character than Hanno.
Lucis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's okay to be sort of similar in the vein that like that is a Roman ideal, especially with the like emperors being granted, the what it's called, the sight of the gods or whatever,
Mhm.
which is why they can divine whether or not somebody needs to die. Uh, Both movies are absolutely historically inaccurate, obviously. Doesn't matter. They're just fun. They're set in somewhat historically accurate like background, but obviously they do a lot differently. Um, I think you're right, Maximus, by virtue of just being the first, also, is the more interesting character, and I feel like his fall and his like ultimate act, also dying, doing it, is just so much more fulfilling as a character arc than Lucius just sort of winning and then taking up his rightful place as ruler, I guess. It also, while both are historically inaccurate, it is different to sort of have somebody who is not a ruler be a ruler at the end of the film, essentially. Whereas like Maximus, not a real character, he dies. But the act is accurate. Commodus was poisoned and died. Not in the not in the Colosseum, but whatever. Um
At that point, does it really matter?
yeah, but still, it is a weird ending. Like I'm down for stretching the accuracy, but that is probably a bridge too far. The other thing I will say is they retconned like his birth essentially. Maximus was not the father, was never hinted at, and it wouldn't make sense for his character. Um, that's just kind of like a bridge too far. I mean, it's whatever, but it was stupid. I think it would have been enough for him to be the grandson of Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, and also the rightful heir to the throne. They didn't need to throw in that his father was Maximus.
Yeah, that's
Um,
that's adding backstory to a character who doesn't need it, as you said, because he's already got this. royal bloodline through his mother.
Yeah.
Does it need to be made more special just
There's
for
a
the
lot of callbacks, especially him wearing Maximus's armor. I
Walking
think,
through the field of weed.
yeah, I feel like some of them fine, but they were way too many. It doesn't ruin the movie, but it was like it is a lot. Especially for Max, who just watched the original and probably felt like he's going through deja vu.
Yeah,
But
I
it's not
mean,
as good
I
either.
I also
when the film opens with him kneeling and like picking up the I don't he wasn't even stones, it was something else, like the grain.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, we're in for we're in for a ride.
yeah, I also never saw the original until like 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah, he gets slack.
yeah, I mean we know that I'm famously late. This is Max's fault.
Okay. If
But
that's
you
what it
saw it
takes
now.
if that's what it takes to get you to watch these kind of these movies, then I'll take it.
Hey, yes, yes, 100%. Yeah,
Uh,
I think that I've waffled a lot in the last couple of years about my feelings on legacy sequels, not including Maximus in this film. I think keeping Russell Crowe out of the cast, even in like a
where are they gonna
flashback
bring
or an
him?
appearance, like thank God Ridley Scott didn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't need it. It would have made it so much worse to have just hit over the head with this is a legacy sequel to a film made 24 years ago. It's called Gladiator. Like this film, while it leans so very heavily on its predecessor, is still its own entity. While yes, there are a lot of callbacks to the first film.
Yeah,
There's a
I
lot
feel like
new.
the most interesting part is Denzel Washington's character.
Yeah,
Uh Acrinus,
Macronus.
Macronus.
Macrinus. Um
He's playing Denzel.
yeah, but he's good at it, man. It's
Yeah,
just
I'm not complaining. I love seeing Denzel on the big screen.
well, he's also I feel like he was a well-written character and that is a departure from the original Gladiator. The original Gladiator, the guy running the whole thing was sort of rooting for Maximus. Whereas this, he's just sort of using him. And also he gives him what he promised,
Yeah.
Acacius's head, and he didn't take it. It's like, no, no, he's good. I didn't realize. Um, and I guess that's the other interesting part with his character originally, which is like his um lack of respect for the Romans. Whereas Maximus always believed in, the Marcus Aurelius idea. This guy has to sort of be convinced of it again. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not the best story, but it's interesting enough.
It's certainly compelling. Like the new layers added in, the political corruption angle with Denzel and the twin emperors, adding the nature of the relationship between Acacius and um, Connie Nielsen's character. Why am I forgetting her name?
What,
Um,
Lucilla?
Lucilla. Thank you. Like there are new takes on familiar themes from the first movie here, and I think Ridley Scott does them really, really well.
Yeah, certainly the Empire has sort of fallen apart a lot more, and you see what the Empire is being run by now, which is like two spoiled brats who don't really understand anything.
Do you see they modeled their characters off of Beavis and Butthead?
Yes, that's great.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's kind of like stupid and stupider,
Yeah.
or crazy and crazier, both. Um, I thought it was hilarious. Like, there's a lot of really funny scenes. There's a lot more comedy in this one than there was in Gladiator, because at that point, and it fits with the time, which is like Marcus Aurelius was one of the last. Well, I guess it was Septimus Severus, their father, Caracalla and Gina's father, was the last of like the good emperors. Um, and now it's just turned into a circus. And so you got a monkey as first consul, which I was reading up on some stuff, and I there was an account that Caligula, one of the previous emperors, actually did try to make his horse his first consul. So this is at least historically something that could have happened. It didn't by all
This is the
accounts,
only
but
historically accurate part of Gladiator 2.
yeah. Yeah, they did kill each other. They hated each other though. Like in this movie, they kind of like each other, but I like it. Again, historical accuracy, well, you can bend that a lot.
And Ben, for your sake, in neither movie does Ridley Scott say based on a true story.
Exactly. Exactly. Just stop doing it, guys. It's not real. Not really.
No, but it doesn't like yes, it's based in the historical fact, but it doesn't pretend to be like biographical in any way.
Yeah.
Like they said it in historical fact, but this could just as easily be a story completely of historical fiction.
Again, I mean, it's been done for a long time. Julius Caesar is one of the famous Shakespeare plays. Like you just, it's art. You can stretch things like the background, great. But I think I have to criticize Shakespeare. I'm pretty sure he did say based on a true story.
Probably.
I'm just kidding.
I
I
haven't,
have no
haven't read
idea.
Caesar.
I have absolutely no idea. I don't know what the original manuscript said or whatever. Um, anyway, the one thing I did want to talk about, well, a lot of the movie looks good. What happened to the animals?
The monkeys.
What?
The monkeys.
The monkeys and the sharks look god awful.
Even the tiger at
The
the end.
tiger, yeah. What the?
I mean,
Like,
just because you can digitally create them doesn't mean you should.
I know. I guess they wanted to kill them, and they're like, "Well, how do we do this?" I don't know. I don't know. I just there's got to be a way. This cannot be what you get with that much money. That's ridiculous. They spent $250 million on this movie.
Yeah, Ben, was the budget worth it? We forgot to begin the episode with that.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. Honestly, I don't know how much went to the actors. It's a lot of good actors in this.
That's true.
Um,
Paul Mescal made
it look
130 million on I don't know.
it looks good for the most part, I would say. But yeah, I don't know. Whoever did the CGI animals should be put in a zoo. Like they need to learn what an animal looks like. Um, because I mean, it looked terrible. They looked like something out of a creature feature.
The feral baboons at the beginning of the movie
Yeah.
might have been worse than all of them.
Yes, that was
Like,
definitely the worst.
like the sharks I can forgive.
The
The
sharks you don't really
tiger,
notice because
fine.
like they're not the main thing. They just eat some people or
But
whatever.
that
But
that one like Planet of the Apes looking guy who Lucius fights, Hanno, whatever you want to call him,
yeah,
Paul
Lucis is
Mescal,
fighting straight
he's fighting
CGI.
him.
It's
This thing, in no possible consideration of reality, could this thing appear to be real.
it looked like a xenomorph. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
like
a
a
monkey
zoo.
xenomorph. It's ridiculous.
This is actually a backdoor prequel into Ridley Scott's next Alien movie.
that's what it is.
This is how
That's
the
what it is,
this is how the
guys.
xenomorphs get to Earth.
He's done a lot of sci-fi, right? He's done a lot of alien movies, so he just got the same guy that did the Xenomorph to do The
He's
most
City
trying
of
to do
Baboon?
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny better than Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
I don't even know because the Xenomorph was done practically. That
This
was
movie, Max, this movie was better than
what's his name,
Indiana Jones and the
Geiger?
Dial of Destiny, and it's
Yes,
not
it was.
remotely close.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
I have no
Thank you.
explanations. This is
Thank you, Ridley
terrible.
Scott, for doing your own Legacy sequel and not giving it to fucking Mangold.
Hey,
He's
yeah,
like
at least
one
it
good Legacy
has the
sequel.
Ridley Scott touch of being entertaining.
Yeah.
He is one of those directors that puts out a lot, and some of it is amazing, some of it is pretty good, some of it is bad.
Some of it's Napoleon.
That's
I,
somewhere in between. I don't,
you know,
depends on who you are, I guess.
I talked about this in my Letterboxd review of Gladiator 2 just briefly. After Napoleon, I was worried. Like, yeah, The Last Duel was great, but after Napoleon, yes, the large scale battles were epic, and he got one great performance out of Vanessa Kirby. But Napoleon on the whole was not a good movie.
Right.
Know how that makes you worried.
Yeah, you were worried about Ridley
Plus,
Scott.
Ridley Scott is 85 years old
Yeah, but
at
again,
the
look at
time,
the battle
86
sequences.
now.
Like, look at the battle
You,
sequences he produced and directed. Like, that
what's
alone
your
is like
fear here?
fucking
You thought
awesome.
you think he's gonna die? He's not
No,
gonna die.
no, I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about effectiveness for film beyond the battle sequences.
Oh, well, no. See, George, this is when your lack of experience with old films hurts you, because this is Ridley Scott's trait. He literally releases tons of bad films, and he'll come out with a banger later. I mean, it's, I can pull up his filmography, but you can do it too. Like, there are tons of duds in there,
You're
but
right.
he's still a great director. It just, he puts out a lot of movies. Sometimes he doesn't think enough. I don't know. Or he thinks it's a good idea and it's not.
Napoleon was not a good idea, but Apple
But to
paid him
him, it's
a
like
ton of
he
money.
wants to put out everything that he's got, you know? He is old, but he's putting out a lot of movies. Like House of Gucci and Last Duel were released in the
Yeah.
same year.
Like 3 months
One of them
apart.
was bad, one of them was really good, you know? That's just his thing.
Except nobody saw either of them,
I think more people saw House of Gucci.
probably because of the cast.
Yeah.
You know, I think some people really liked it. Some people liked how ridiculous it is. I think it's fun that he just puts everything out there. It's like 30 years from now, maybe we'll look back on it and be like, this is a treasure, you
I
know?
think you're looking at him right now and saying he's a treasure, and I'm inclined to agree.
Oh, yeah, well, he is a treasure, but the movies, like the bad movies he made,
Oh,
sometimes those will be a treasure.
I don't think 30 years from now, and you can come back on November 26th, 2054, and say, George, what are your thoughts on House of Gucci? I'm I'm not going to feel any different.
Look, all I know is Blade Runner is one of my favorites. That movie got panned on release. Panned.
This movie is getting pretty much universal acclaim.
Gladiator 2.
Yeah,
I I don't know what universal acclaim means to you, but I've
I'm
seen
seeing
mixed
I'm seeing
reviews.
critical success across the board.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't say across the board.
I mean,
It's
that's just if I'm not seeing everything, then I'm not seeing everything.
it's it's gotten pretty good reviews, but I wouldn't say universal acclaim.
I mean, not to the
There are a
extent
few of the
of
big times, like I think the Post didn't like it and stuff like that. I
I'll have
gave
to
like
read
a
the review.
1.5.
I will have
Rotten
to,
Tomatoes like 71% or something. So
really.
yeah. Again, I don't know who's on there. That's you gotta take that with a grain of salt, but
Right.
there were a few people that didn't like it for the same reasons that we criticized it. We just found it entertaining enough. Some of them did not.
Yeah.
Again, it's not a movie where I'm gonna be mad if you don't like it. It's a pretty good movie, but I definitely understand if you don't like it.
I just don't see enough here to the negative that would uh to I don't see enough negative here for anyone to dislike the movie. Like I think at worst, neutral feelings are probably what I would see for this movie. Because it's a good ride.
Yeah, depends on how you feel about sequels. Again, like Max said, a lot of it is very similar
Did
to
you
the
guys see
original.
that until Wicked gets however much billion dollars it's gonna make, the top 10 highest grossing movies around the world this year are all sequels?
Hmm.
Never
Oh
happened.
yeah,
Well,
I did see that. Yeah.
Wicked did make like $153 million over the weekend, so
Just in
Yeah.
the US.
yeah, movies. It
It's
got
funny.
good reviews.
Wicked beat Gladiator in the US, but Gladiator beat Wicked at the global box office. I thought that
I
was
really
interesting.
feel like Wicked is like the Dune for musical people,
Yeah.
sorry.
It's
I
probably true.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're both also part one and part two.
That was smart though for Wicked to avoid the part
Oh,
nature in its advertising.
no, it's,
Yeah.
I
I mean, they
just,
didn't really hide it. I mean, they didn't advertise it, but they didn't really hide it. People
Because
just
the
didn't really
film is Wicked
didn't
Part
look.
One, but
Yeah.
all the advertising's just been Wicked.
yeah, I
Yep.
mean, Dune did the same thing, but
Yeah.
I just disagree with Wicked part one. I'm sure
Yeah.
they have meaningful ways to fill space, but
Yeah, but it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, and the whole Broadway show runtime is like 2:30.
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen it twice. It's 2:30, and they
Yeah.
get a lot out there with intermission, mind you.
And now this intermission is a
Again,
year long before we
I
get to
can't
part two.
criticize it. I have not seen it, but I just don't like that.
Apparently, it's also doing very well.
I've
Yeah.
heard that. So eventually I'm gonna have to see it.
Yeah, I think just one more note on the part one thing. Other than Barbenheimer coming out the next week, that's kind of what sunk Dead Reckoning last summer. Is it was Dead Reckoning Part One, and everybody was just going to wait until Part Two and then stream Part One. And now Wicked, learning from that mistake, is saying, "Oh, this is Wicked," and then it hits you with the to be continued, and it's like, "Oh man, we got to wait another year for the rest of the story."
Yeah,
And
I don't know.
at least in 2000, Ridley Scott didn't say Gladiator Part One, and then 24 years later, we walk into the theater and it says Gladiator Part Two.
George Lucas did that though.
For what?
Star Wars.
I
He did the
mean,
first trilogy and then he said, yeah, you're gonna get the other part. And he waited like 18 years. I'm saying. Maybe it was like 15, but still, he waited a while.
yeah.
Took him a while.
And then Disney bought everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Gladiator 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I've pretty much said what I need to. Animals look terrible. Performance is pretty good. Paul
I think
Mescal sometimes when he's crying, I can't tell if he's laughing. But other than that, his performance is good, if not
The
a
naval
bit
battle wasn't
derivative.
long enough.
it was
Yeah,
not. I needed more. And Paul
We
Mescal,
basically got the whole thing in the trailer.
yeah.
yeah,
Paul Mescal, I like him here. I'm not too familiar with a lot of his other stuff, but there were a lot of moments where I felt the acting, where with Pedro Pascal, Connie Nielsen, Denzel, or even with Russell Crowe in the first movie, like it was seamless. They were their character. I was seeing a lot of Paul Mescal here.
yeah, that's fair. I think he was daunted by the task of playing Russell Crowe as Maximus in the first.
True.
I don't know if that was a director decision or whether he decided to do that. Either way, it kind of works, but yeah, it does seem like he's not really in the zone. Not like, Pedro Pascal is really good as a Cassius. Even, Joseph Quinn and I don't know who plays
Dude,
Caracalla,
I
but
was just gonna say Joseph
they're
Quinn
great.
sells it. He's fantastic here. He might be my favorite, other than Denzel. He might be my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, him and Pedro are great.
And we're gonna see the two of them together in Fantastic Four next summer.
That's true. I'm
Hmm.
happy for Joseph Quinn. I loved him in Stranger Things, and I thought he was a great actor that encompassed the character. And now he's getting to do bigger things.
Only moving upward.
And I like that the crazy emperors were different enough from Commodus.
Hmm.
I think that's because the relationship between really all four main characters in the first film, uh, it was so personal, and that connection isn't there for these characters.
Yeah.
You know, these two new emperors 16 years later after the first story, they've
Is
just
it 16?
assumed power, but they're not really connected to anyone in particular. Like they're not
Hmm.
Commodus's sons or whatever. They're not part of the Marcus Aurelius family tree. They're just these two psychotic brothers who happen to control the most powerful empire in the world. But there's no personal stake for either of them, or even for Denzel. I mean, it's personal for him, but in relation to the other characters, there's nothing really like it doesn't have to be Lucius. It doesn't have to be any single one of these characters. Acacius, it doesn't have to be any one of them. They're just all forced into this situation and this story by the circumstance of their time.
Yeah, it's conditions ripe for a power vacuum.
Exactly.
You have Commodus was raised to be a leader as much as he wasn't. He was raised to be a leader. These two idiots have emerged 16 years later and have no idea what they're doing. And so,
Well, they were raised to be leaders. They're just
yeah,
idiots.
And then you've got Lucilla, who is still the queen, but she's really only relevant because she's married to Acacius, who controls the Roman army. The, and the Senate's still a part of it. I don't know. I thought
Yes.
the final confrontation um, between Paul Mescal and Denzel, with armies behind each of them, with the story that was told in the 2 hours and 25 minutes leading up to this, I thought it was really well done to have it just be those two with 11,000 extras around them.
Yeah, well, it also makes sense because they didn't really care about him. They weren't really loyal to him.
They were loyal to the throne, and he was seizing control in that moment.
That is pretty historically accurate. I don't know what happened to Macrinus, but he didn't last long.
When he cuts off his arm in the river,
Okay.
I gasped in the theater. That was epic.
Yeah, and then he sort of just faints from
Yeah, and then he just sort of,
shock.
yeah, very climactic and then anticlimactic all in the span of a few seconds.
I think it's fair because that kind of makes sense for him.
There was one shot after that when Lucius goes back to the Colosseum and he's all alone and he's mourning his parents, and it's the upwards shot of Mescal where you see the purple sky behind him. I thought that was supposed to be this super artsy, beautiful looking thing, and it just looked terrible. The
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
every shot in this movie is dynamic and visually great,
They
CGI
should
and
have just not
notwithstanding.
had that. Ridley will probably come up with the director's cut. I'll
I
see what
hope
he
so.
does.
I will be there day one to watch a 3 hour, 45-minute version of this story.
Also, I realize it's probably symbolic, him cutting off his arm, right? Him stealing power, punishment for stealing things.
Yeah.
That was probably very deliberate on the part of the writers and Ridley.
Yeah, because nobody else dies by arm
There are some brutal
amputation.
kills in this movie, though.
There are some pretty brutal kills.
Like
Acacius, not
the
so brutal. He just
blade
gets
into the ear.
porcupined. Oh God, that's not so brutal as much as like it hurts you inside.
Yeah. We would be
Um,
remiss in this episode if we didn't mention May Kalamaui.
oh yeah, I
Last
honestly
name,
don't know what happened.
because she was written in and she did the shoot as a very significant character, and she appears in the background of like 3 shots with no lines.
Yeah, I
And
don't. I feel bad, but I also don't know why Ridley wrote that to begin with, because part of the thing with these gladiators is they lose everything. Like you lose your wife, Maximus lost his wife. That's why it doesn't make sense for him to like get with Lucilla. They're very loyal to their family, and he wants vengeance. I don't know, maybe he could have worked it in, but it seems like it would have complicated the plot.
it might have, but also it she's a very talented actor, and to see her pushed to the side like this,
Yeah, certainly.
it doesn't sit right with me.
That's how Timothy Chalamet feels still to this day with Interstellar. This is the saddest moment, his greatest acting. That man really wanted to be in Interstellar. But like I understand it. It's rough timing, certainly. I have no idea whether like studios pushed for any of that or if it was just like a unfortunate thing where he may have realized what I did, which is that it complicates the plot unnecessarily.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know what
but
factors were at play here. There's
I
a lot of
certainly
speculation on
wish
all that stuff. I can't speak to any of it. I was just
like
as
she's been a great actress. I would have loved to see it. Maybe she'll be in the director's cut when
I
he can
hope
do a
so.
longer movie. Um, but yeah, I'm sure they still have the footage. So
With
Ridley's
more
famous for doing that.
room to play in a director's cut, I think complicating the story is permissible.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, Ridley has been very open about studios messing with his work before, which is why he comes out with director's cuts. So I don't know whether it was his choice or somebody else's. Um, due to the fact that I mean she's Egyptian Palestinian, but I guess that's enough. Again, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to comment on it.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I
yeah,
don't know enough about
obviously,
it to I was just saying my
it
piece.
in light of everything, it's unfortunate to say the least.
Yeah.
And obviously, she's a great actress. I'm sure we'll see her in other things, and maybe we'll see her in the director's cut.
Hope so.
So I think that's most of our views. I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything to add. I'll end it with a quick fact, which is everybody knows that the gladiator, like, do you die or do you live? Everyone gets this wrong. And again, I don't care. It's a movie. But historically, I believe the uh, the thumb to say yes, kill them is up, right? Do I kill them? Yes, not no. This is
Mm.
spare them. This is kill them.
Is the question, should I kill them or should they live?
Typically, they look to them whether they should kill them or not. It's an implied question. They look to the emperor or whoever was holding the
I,
game,
I don't know. So
and they say, do they get mercy or not? If they do this, means go ahead, kill them. Otherwise, it means no, don't kill them.
I think it's more dramatic if it's a
But
thumbs down.
yes, it's been done for so long in Hollywood. I don't know that you can change it without confusing the hell out of people. That's where it's like historical accuracy is good, but sometimes you gotta let it slide.
That was a fun fact.
Anyway,
Thanks for sharing it.
um, we're off next week, so we're returning 2 weeks, I guess, for Y2K. Is that right?
Mhm. That's right.
Alrighty. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.